Yes! Here we go!
This is TDLabz, and you're with your boy TD. I got JTuck here. I'm a big fan. Tuck's a huge voice of the fans. I want to welcome him to our community. He's kind of helping my brand grow and helping me get people involved in Canada with football and really put Cowboys Nation on the map up here in the north. So Tuck and I kind of share the same goal. We're trying to educate fans through film and really well thought out analysis. And Tuck's been posting since 2016, man. So check out his channel. His channel, CFO Sports. We can get CFO Sports gang here, and really appreciate the support. Appreciate you being on here, Tuck. You got 3.1 million views on YouTube, 17K subs. I know you're growing your stuff. I know you know your stuff. You were at the game last week. You know what you've been doing, and can't wait to hear you talk and for us to kind of break down what's been happening with the Cowboys for the last 3 weeks, and really what's going to go down tomorrow night against the Giants. Big matchup. Crucial matchup, and this is our own I would say celebrity we got in house, and really this is the fans' voice, right? So Tuck, I'll let you kind of take it from there, man.
Oh man, thank you for that introduction, man. That means a lot. For me personally, I started this, even though it started in 2016 as far as my channel analytics is concerned, I really got serious in 2020 during the pandemic. And if you would have told me back then, all the opportunities and things that came my way was on the future horizon, I would have told you you're probably lying, man. So, salute to Cowboys Nation. And, it's funny that you're saying you're in Canada, and a lot of people call us America's team. We're worldwide, man. I have a lot of Cowboys fans from Canada who watches my content, Germany, Italy, the UK, you name it. So it really shows the foundation. The Cowboys Nation is not just, in the US, it's worldwide, man. So I'm glad that you find my content, educational. That's all I want to provide, man. At the end of the day, if you watch my content, I want you to be able to walk away with something. And that's why I always end my shows with stay safe, stay blessed, stay encouraged, because we're going through a hard time during 2020. And I always told Cowboys Nation, if you don't listen to anything I say, at least walk away with that last encouraging message, man. So thanks for having me on, TD.
Yo, all good, man. And you know what, Tuck? We need more we got too much state-run media, man. We got too many voices that are, they have an opinion. They want to push things. They don't want to push what the real fans want to hear. And the fans know what's going on, right? The people who are involved in the team, we know what's happening. We kind of expected some of these things that have been happening with the team in the offseason, right? Their neglect to kind of go bargain bin shopping with defensive tackles. We've signed Ezekiel Elliott in the run game, and we got Jerry Jones out here saying that we can't even afford Derrick Henry. So, there's some smoke and mirrors that they're playing with the fans here, and that's my problem with the team, man. Really what I want to say is this is a big battle tomorrow. We got two teams that are going up to, who gets back to 500. Right, and whoever loses this game is 2 games back now from the NFC East, with games pending that are coming up this weekend. So I'm going to say that Mike's on the hot seat, and same with Brian Daboll. I think both of them are kind of going into this game facing a lot of criticism. Brian Daboll, I've seen him, get his job security question. Haven't quite seen that yet with McCarthy. But, things are hot, man. What are you thinking about that?
Yeah, 1000%, man. If you would have asked me preseason, did I think that our week 4 matchup versus the Giants going to be a thriller or important matchup, I would have said absolutely not. It was probably going to be more of a bye week. But, due to the lack of off-season transactions, and this is what kind of sparked the movement today. I'm not sure if you saw it online with the Fire Jerry, the GM movement that's been circulating, because Cowboys fans are fed up, right? We are the best fan base in the world, but I feel like we get mediocre and lackluster results, and not just by the performance on the field, but also from our ownership. It doesn't feel like our ownership gives the fan base what the fan base gives the ownership. I mean, people travel. I don't live in Dallas. I live in Kansas City, so I fly to every home game. I have friends from Florida who fly to every home game, and Colorado, like all over, right? So we don't feel like that's being reciprocated. So here we are. Like you said, we saw all the red blinking lights in the offseason. Hey, very first thing, as soon as we lost, I do a lot of NFL draft content. I probably broke down, I don't know how many running backs until I was probably like sick in the head, because I was like, there's a lot of quality guys you can get either day 2 or day 3 that can help fill this void, right? And we're sitting there watching the draft. Well, none of them got taken by the Dallas Cowboys. Okay, when you bring back Ezekiel Elliott, okay, and I like Zeke, but there were still some guys that were still available. And then you look at the defensive tackle room. We knew Mozzie Smith was coming off a shoulder injury, but also struggles his rookie season, with the weight loss gain myth, with everything that was going on there. And so, okay, well, let's go get some defensive tackles. Well, you went ultimately and drafted a Justin Rogers, who you cut. So who else were you going to rely on to stop the run? And then you go bargain bin shopping the last, like, pretty much Christmas Eve before it's Christmas Day, and you grab a Linval Joseph and a Jordan Phillips, which is they're cool, they're decent, but it's no one that can really, solidify the void that we have. And so I feel like a lot of these holes that the Cowboys have that's being exposed this early in the football season is because we did not make the proper moves in the offseason, and we are paying the ultimate price to the point where people are asking me about tomorrow. I'm like, I don't know. Like, I don't know now because I really don't know who this Cowboys team is. So it's a different situation for a lot of Cowboys fans.
Couple of points I'm going to hit on there, Tuck. Honestly, that was good stuff. Like, when I think about Zeke, man, I think about the Miami game from last year. And you remember when Hunter went in there and he fumbled on the goal line? I really think management took a look at that game and they're like, wow, if we had Zeke as a short yardage back, we could have walked out here with a big dub. And we could have walked out here from a Miami game, and we were missing that last year. But that doesn't mean that you bring that guy back just to kind of fill that void, right? And we
Right.
don't have anybody that's explosive. Rico is Zeke, right? And Rico's getting majority of the touches, and maybe he's like a hair faster, but this is my problem. We put Deuce in the game, man, and we've only seen Deuce run the ball. We never put Deuce in the slot. We never done
Mhm.
anything else with Deuce to put any fear into any team where they're like, all right, Deuce is coming on the field and he might be a threat because, he might run out the backfield. He might run a wheel route. We're super basic. And I made a
Mhm.
video on this today about our play calling. I think our first 15 is kind of garbage, man. We got an offensive minded head coach, and he's supposed to be coming in here with Brian Schottenheimer and really going through these 20 plays with Dak all throughout the week and making sure Dak's ready, right? And I'm coming
Mhm.
into the first and second series, seeing these guys run screens to Rico, trying to get Rico involved so badly where it's like, it's so obvious how we're trying to do that. And then the first play that Lamar Jackson has, he's kind of faking the handoff to Henry, and they're getting their star player involved right away to put our defense on their toes. I don't feel like we're doing that as an offense right now, man. And it's easy to kind of game plan for us, right? They're like, all right, Dak's gonna have to throw the ball like 40 times for us to win this game. And trust me, I think Dak is him. Like what he did for that comeback was unreal in the fourth quarter. But
Mhm.
he can't do it alone, right? And what are we supposed to do?
Yeah, and I agree. And I think, that's the big caveat when it comes to our offense. We'll talk about the defense here in a second is when you look at this Cowboys offensive roster outside of Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb, nothing scares you. I like Jake Ferguson. I think he's going to emerge, right? But there's nothing to really put you on your toes. And so what you're seeing when you go through the film is that teams are just disrespecting our offense, right? They're coming down with 4 down linemen and they're dropping 7 in coverage and playing the numbers game. Now, what happens when that happens? You're supposed to punish them on the ground. But they're saying, I dare you, bro, to try to punish them. Because they don't even know who your number one running back. One game is Zeke, one game is Rico. And then you have a little Deuce Vaughn. And then you might put CD in the back. Like you're just doing stuff, throwing things at the wall, hoping something sticks. And I like Zeke. I was excited that we brought him back, but not as your number one option. And here's my biggest frustration, as me speaking about earlier, is say, okay, you pass on running backs in the draft from a Braylon Allen to Jalen Wright, and the list goes on because you brought Ezekiel Elliott back and you feel like Zeke can be your running back. But then you give him 3 carries. So what is it really about? Like Zeke is right now, he's like the third in the rotation behind Deuce. So nothing that the Cowboys are doing essentially just makes sense when it comes to our running game. If you don't have the scheme, you don't have a complex scheme, you also don't have the offensive line that's protecting. That's a whole another conversation. And you don't have the running back room. Teams aren't going to fill your running game. Is shown already before.
Ask you a question, man, and really this question is around our identity. So I wrote something down, and I want to ask you what your opinion is right now into this part of the season and 17 weeks later. What's our identity of our team right now? Do we want it, and do we have the confidence to give Zeke the ball 3 times and think that he can get a first down if we need to do that against a team? Or are you more confident just saying, hey, we know that they think we're gonna throw the ball. We have the receiver to get the ball. We have Jake Ferguson, who's a potential breakout candidate for tight end. I'm okay with putting the chips on the table and giving it to my quarterback and letting him throw it. Because right now, Tuck, I don't got that confidence that Zeke can tote the rock 3 times and get us a first down.
Yeah, I think that's a fair question when it comes to the Cowboys. What is our identity? I think that's the magical question we've been asking just from a standpoint culturally for many years. But when it comes to the offensive side of the ball, I don't think the run game is our identity. Now we hear that all offseason. We want to be able to run the ball whenever we want to run the ball. We want to be tough in the trenches, right? But we have yet to even seen that on display. And I don't think even if we wanted to, and I posed this question on Twitter. Let's say, for instance, we are the Dallas Cowboys, and we are going to play a game against a team whose defense is bad against the run like the Dallas Cowboys. I personally don't think with our personnel, we can even do what the Baltimore Ravens did to us, even if we wanted to. I don't think that we could line up 45 times and run the ball down someone's throat because, one, I feel like we do have 2 rookie offensive linemen who's still trying to grow in Cooper Beebe and Tyler Guyton. 2, our run scheme is as basic and vanilla. It's just run left, run right, dive left. There's no stretch. There's no RPOs. There's no gaps. There's no creativity when it comes to our run game. And 3, our running back room is probably the worst in the NFL. And I'm trying to think off the top of my head another running back room that I would say that we're better than, but it's going to be a stretch. So I think when you add those 3 things, the running game is really absent. So offensively, I will say our identity is Dak Prescott getting the ball to CeeDee Lamb and just hoping for the best right now. But that's going to have to change because these defensive coordinators at the NFL level, they're not dumb. They're not dumb. I mean, even if we're playing Madden, TD, I'm trying to throw to CD, and you would dare me to throw to Jalen Tolbert or Brandon Cooks or Luke Schoonmaker and beat you that way. And the Cowboys have shown nothing on film that they can do it that way. It's CeeDee Lamb, Dak Prescott, or bust right now offensively.
And you know what? It's okay to be that team that's going to pass 40 times if that's our identity, right? And we can get it done. I just need that second receiver to emerge. And I don't know if that's Cooks right now. I don't know if it's Ferguson. He's been banged up. I was hoping he would be that guy this year to be that, tight end that's coming in like Kelsey that we could trust. But his health has been a concern. So it's I've been hearing a lot about Tolbert in camp, and I've been hearing all these good things about, how he's in the Dak yard and he's getting all this stuff done, but I haven't seen it in the game. We saw it that one game we were down against the Saints. He made a couple of nice catches, but I really want Mike to kind of force feed another receiver, right? And we're going to get into situations where CeeDee Lamb's covered and he's having an off game, and I don't need our offense to shut down there. So you mentioned that point. I'm going to tell you, the Ravens lined up against us 65 times. They ran the ball 50 times, man. That is insane.
That's so disrespectful. I wouldn't even do you like that in Madden, man. That is so disrespectful.
That's what you do to your 5-year-old nephew or something like that.
Right.
You want to play him, you know what I mean?
That's when you hear someone raging through the head. So all you're gonna do is run the ball. I'm gonna run stretch left and stretch right and stretch left and stretch right because you can't stop it. And it's just it's demoralizing. I play on the defensive side of the ball. I play, defense, linebacker. And man, getting the ball run down your throat, and there's nothing you can do about it. There's nothing more demoralizing in the game of football than that. And the Ravens really just did it. And it's just not that they just did it. They did it well. They literally did it well. Where it's they were just gashing us, and they can do whatever they want. So going to tomorrow's game, that scares me because now the film is out there, and I can guarantee you, even though it's just Singletary, the Giants' first probably 2 to 3 plays will be runs directly at the Cowboys defense. So it's going to come down to mentality. You are going to have to step up and say, you know what, this is no longer, and everyone's going to do their job. But thus far, the past, and honestly, let's keep it a buck. We dodged a bullet because Nick Chubb was out. Because Nick Chubb probably would have exposed us, thank goodness, week 1. So we dodged a bullet there.
100%, bro.
But man, it's just been bad for the Cowboys overall. But they're going to have to figure it out and figure it out quick because
Even week 1, bro, I thought Ford was going to do that.
And I mean, what he had like 94 yards. They had like 94 yards on the ground. So it wasn't like we shut them down completely, but also we were getting pressure, we were getting turnovers, and like doing some of those things. So that's how the Cowboys moniker is. But if you cannot stop the run and you cannot run the ball, those are the two foundational things that you must do at any level of football, Pee Wee all the way up to the NFL. If you can't do that, you're probably going to lose more games than you can win. So the Cowboys will need to get that fixed ASAP.
I've been looking at all these analysts and what they've been putting out, and everybody's banking on Dak being that guy tomorrow night and getting that win just because he has 12 wins against the Giants, right? But it's like, we need more than that. We can't just pay this guy $250 million and just blame him for everything and rely on him when, everything's going bad and be like, nah, we paid him, it's all good. And then talk smack about him the next game when he can't get it done. You know what I mean? Like, it's not fair. It's not fair to Dak. And, Micah Parsons probably had 10 opportunities to rush the passer in the last 3 games, right? And from those opportunities, he's walking away with a sack from the Cleveland game. But this guy's playing end and he's playing in his gap and he's trying to stop the run and he can't, right? And I saw Max Crosby and I saw what the Raiders did against the Ravens. They kind of played Max as a spy from the defensive end position and made sure that he watched Lamar every single time they handed it off, just to make sure even if Lamar didn't have the ball, somebody was on him, and he would kind of let the rest of the team rely on tackling Derrick Henry. I didn't kind of see anything like that from the Cowboys, and 13 has been a little bit of a disappointment for me at the linebacker position, and I'm going to throw it out there for Cowboys Nation. We need to chill on our expectations, right? These are young kids who are getting their first live game reps, first couple of weeks in the NFL. They need some time to grow. You know what I mean? 35 needs time to grow. There's a reason Eric Kendricks is leading us in tackles. He knows what's going on with the system. I'm down with what you said in your last video where you're down to go through these growing pains right now. We've had seasons where we started with Garrett 3-0 and then went 3-3. We've had seasons like last year where, we're on our high horse. Micah admitted in his podcast as well. And we kind of couldn't figure out what was going on by the end of the year. So for us to get punched in the mouth like this right now, it's not going to happen 17 games in a row, right?
We hope. We hope. We hope. And that's what I was saying in my video. It wasn't that, I'm optimistic that it's going to change, but you build callous. You just got the ball ran down your throat for 50 carries, last week. It has to be better than that. You have to be able to build that callous and say, okay, we started stopping the run a little bit in the second half. What were some of the things that you're doing? And just like you said, TD, I think the problem is the ego when it comes to the Cowboys is we draft well. Well, you have a lot of first-year guys out there early. Case in point, Kingsley Samatea out of BYU, the left tackle who the Chiefs drafted, right? He was struggling versus Cincinnati. They said, okay, bro, we love you. We think you're going to be a star here in Kansas City, but not this game. Come sit by me for a little bit, right? But think about from the Cowboys standpoint, if that's Tyler Guyton, we don't have another left tackle we could go to. So it's Tyler Guyton or bust. When it comes to Cooper Beebe, you could go with Brock Hoffman, but it's Cooper Beebe or bust. Kalen Carson had some flashes week 1. Last 2 weeks, he's been struggling. There's no one we can go to. So the Cowboys have banked and put all in on a rookie class of unproven guys. I like Overshown, but you are the first one to really admit he hasn't looked good. Everyone's like, put Overshown in because we love the energy. We love the enthusiasm. We love, all of that. But at the end of the day, at the linebacker position, you still have to read your keys. And if you're overflowing, getting caught up in all the mud, and you're not playing with gap integrity, you're just as bad as me being out there, right? So you can have all the energy in the world, but if you're in the wrong gaps and you can't get off of blocks and shed blocks, you're no good to us. And teams have smartened up and they figured out the blueprints of the Dallas Cowboys defense that happened in Buffalo. I'm going to line up in these heavy personnels. You can come out there with your little linebackers and we're going to man up and just run it down your throat and not let our quarterback drop and throw 40 times so Mike can get pressure or DeRon Bland or Trayvon doesn't get that pick 6. And we're going to slow and muddy this game up, which kind of makes tomorrow's game a little bit interesting because that's definitely going to be the Giants formula.
Yo, Tuck, I'm not going into tomorrow's game saying that it's, I'm as confident as I was before the season started. You know what I mean? Things are shaky. Right. It's a short week. It's hard to change the scheme in a day. It's hard to even correct on Mondays when, these guys are flying out on Wednesday. So I'm a little bit worried, man, going into tomorrow. And both of the wins for both these teams are against Cleveland. They're both against common opponents. Let's not forget, when I watched Giants film here, they played Washington pretty hard, and now Washington's coming off that big game on Monday night where they had a huge win. Like it's looking like they played a pretty tough opponent, and they went down to the wire with them. Cleveland played them hard too, so it's not going to be a cakewalk. And we're talking about Singletary. I don't know. That's a problem, right? We need to hold him to like less than 100 yards tomorrow night, and he's averaging about like 4.7 yards a carry right now. One thing I'll point out as well is he's fumbled the ball coming out of both series, the last two games, out of halftime. So that's something we can look at. But Daniel Jones, like this is his recipe for success right now. And this is why I think we might have a little bit of success tomorrow. He needs to throw the ball to Malik Neighbors in order to win. And Malik Neighbors is kind of doing everything for them right now. He's super dangerous, man. He got like 18 targets in that Washington game. He got almost like 80 yards last game with 2 touchdowns. The film that I've watched on him, they're throwing it to him in the red zone. They're throwing it to him on 4th down. They're throwing it to him on 3rd down. He is turning into their guy when they need to make a play. No matter what, he's turning into their CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah. And that's going to be the real caveat, right? Because like you said, right, they have a running game in Singletary. But the thing about Singletary, he's also breaking, tackles as well, which we don't do in Dallas. So it's going to be interesting because we don't have time to scheme up for it. And honestly, I don't think his scheme is more about effort and desire, but are you going to load the box up a little bit more to take away the run? Well, then that's going to leave you Trayvon or Malik, on Malik Neighbors 101, or it might, Kalen Carson 101, which will be a dogfight. And, what I'm saying? So it's like, how are you going to combat that? And I think the way that you combat that is the guys who's going to be your front 7. They're going to have to show up. They're going to have to show up and play a lot better, because if you're able to keep Daniel Jones behind the sticks and the chains and have those 3rd and 7 to 3rd and 6s at least, then that's going to work to our advantage. But if it's 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3, because Daniel Jones, even though he's not Jalen Hurts or Lamar Jackson, he's sneaky out the backfield. He can use his legs too. And so when you think you have everything covered, well, there he goes skirting out for a 1st down. So you have to be aware of all these things. Me personally, my fix is one. I would get Micah Parsons the hell up off the edge and let him free flow, A gap, B gap. Sometimes he's on the edge on the left side, sometimes on the edge on the right side. Really use him as an outside linebacker and make it hard to locate. Why they won't do that, I don't know. It worked perfectly fine week 1, but they went away from it, right? Number 2, I would definitely say Donovan Wilson. I know that we paid you, bro, but you got to come sit by me. You need an athletic safety out there. And I feel like Wanye Thomas is a guy that can cover land a lot quicker. It can cover a lot better. And he's not afraid to tackle as well. So I make those adjustments. And then thirdly, when it comes to our linebacker core, you got to find out who's your guys. It's going to be Maris. It's going to be Kendricks. Just find out who your guys are, because the rotation of Clark, Overshown, Kendricks, like you can't get into a rhythm. So go ahead, find out who your guys are. Now the defensive tackle interior, y'all, I don't know. I got no answer for you, Sway, on that one. But, that's some things I would possibly consider doing. And I know some people, had the idea of maybe moving Marshawn Nealon in the inside. He's not really that kind of guy. He can play 3 tech, but 1, I don't know, right? So it's like, I don't
think he's big enough to go on the inside. You know what I mean? Like he's a big guy, but like he's a run stopper too. But he's not like that trash can type of dude.
Right? Yeah. And that's the thing. It's a personnel thing. We just don't have the guys in the interior from a consistent basis. I mean, even last year, if you look at our roster, you could have Hankins, and then you have Mozzie coming in.
Why did they let Hankins go? He was so cheap, man, and he's making plays for Seattle right now too, with like their 2 defensive tackles being out. It makes me want to throw up in my mouth.
Well, according to them, that the Cowboys offered the same deal as Seattle, and Hankins chose to go to Seattle. Well, how about you maybe offer him a little bit more? Maybe instead of a 1-year deal, you say, you know what, Hankins, we really value you, and we don't have any defensive tackles. Let me give you a 2-year deal to stay in Dallas.
Like, he's a good locker room guy
negotiate.
Too, right?
Yeah, you can negotiate a little bit. You know what I'm saying? It's not like, okay, well, they're offering you, $3 million 1 year. We offer you the same thing. Pick it or choose it. It's, hey, they're offering you $3 million. Well, I'm gonna give you 5, bro. You know what I'm saying? So, it's just it'd be different if it's Hankins took less money to go to Seattle, but you match the deal and he went to Seattle. Well, of course, he's gonna go with his defensive line coach and Andre Durden, who's has been his guy. So I don't know, man. It's just
Seahawks are 3-0, man.
Yep. Right?
Like
Yep.
Seahawks are proving that they're that team. Yo, Tuck, couple matchups before we leave that I want to highlight. I just want to get your comments on them. Um, I had a feeling last games for Cooper Beebe was going to be a tough game. Justin
Mm-hmm.
Matabuke was probably the toughest opponent he's gone up to this date. He has Dexter Lawrence this week as well. He's been struggling a little bit. This line got 4.5 sacks against Deshaun Watson. They
Mm-hmm.
blitz this line like 57% of the time on his dropbacks. And then I want to throw Kayvon Thibodeau, long arm type of guy. What we've been seeing Guyton get beat with recently, especially in the last couple of weeks. Do you think they have some success against our O line?
Yeah, man, and that's my concern because that will allow them just once again to rush 4 and drop 7. Now, you also mentioned Kayvon Thibodeau, but I'm a Florida State guy. They also got Brian Burns on the other side,
Yep.
and Aaron still hasn't looked well as well. So I think another thing when it comes to our offensive line is not only are we young, the continuity with it. So it's like, okay, how do you help Cooper Beebe with Dexter Lawrence because you don't want to leave him in a one-on-one because it's going to be dogfight, right? But then also when it comes to Kayvon Thibodeau, the thing that Tyler Guyton has struggled with thus far, and he struggled with it in college as well, and this is one of my concerns when I did the draft film, is hip bend, being able to get low. So that's why you're seeing him trying to dip. He's also wrapping around the throat constantly because he's not able to get low. So those guys who are kind of, speed to power guys like Kayvon Thibodeau or maybe a Brian Burns, they typically kind of give him some trouble. So it's like we have our offensive line play isn't good, y'all. It hasn't been good. So not only can we help pass protect, we're struggling in pass pro, we're also in the run blocking scheme as well. Like we can't move anybody. So it's like that's definitely a change. But once again, this is what happens when you move on from Tyron Smith. Even though he maybe only lasted us to November, I would have been more comfortable knowing that I have Tyron Smith to November, and then Tyler Guyton might be coming around Thanksgiving while he's been in the locker room. He's been kind of under the lineage of some all pros and kind of learning the game. But Tyler Guyton doesn't get that specialty. Think about Tyler Smith, y'all. When Tyler Smith came to Dallas, he got to be under not only Zach Martin, but he also got to be under Tyron Smith. And then he also got to be under Jason Peters. Like, look at the guys that Tyler Smith got to learn under. When it comes to Tyler Guyton, it's just like
They're
Tyler Smith
expecting
is
Tyler Smith to pick up that slack though, right? And that's
right.
wrong,
Yeah.
man. Like they're
Yeah,
like, oh,
you're
you're in your
expecting
third
Tyler
year.
Smith to be your big lead veteran to get the rookie right, and that's not right because he still has a learning curve of his own playing left guard. So
My problem, Tuck, is that they're leaving this guy out on an island. They're not
mhm,
chipping for him. They're sending the back the opposite way. They're just saying like, "Yo, man, let me throw you in the fire," and you're like Mike Solari is just telling him to learn, and that's
right,
not right either, right? It's probably lowering his confidence, and he's getting when he gets punched and he gets turned around, like it makes the whole line collapse quick. And
right,
everyone's like, yo, man, Dak's staring down his reads, and Dak doesn't know what he's doing. Like, yo, these are timing routes that these guys are working on
right.
all throughout the week, right? And Dak's
Mhm,
looking at guys because he's expecting them to be open and ready for these balls, but he can barely even get those out. So it's going to be a huge
right.
concern with this defensive line. I wanted to bring a couple other things up too. The Giants' corners are a little bit banged up. They got their first
Mhm,
round pick there in Deontay Banks. Maybe he lines up against CeeDee Lamb. That's kind of a
mhm.
matchup to look out for. And really, man, Malik Neighbors targeted 37 times in 3 weeks. You think Trayvon's going to follow him, or what do you think's going to happen there?
Trayvon typically doesn't travel, but I feel like the way that our corners are, we're going to have no choice, right? Because you definitely don't want Kalen Carson on Malik Neighbors, or it might be GG's in the chat. So it's going to be interesting. I would probably want to travel, but I doubt if Trayvon will. So if he's lined up, Jay Lewis played well, but Jay Lewis is going to be on the inside. But Kalen Carson, he is going to have to step up, unfortunately, but he's nicked up, right? So will it be Andrew Booth that's going to be there, or is it going to be Israel McQuamu? Like that's going to be a huge question mark. I didn't look at the full injury report today, but Kalen Carson's nicked up a little bit, so you can't leave him on an island with when it comes to neighbors. So I would probably expect for him to travel with them because that's going to be their number one primary option. And if there's anybody we can trust, it's Trayvon Diggs, especially if they're having a little rift. So maybe that'll kind of spark something there. But that's going to be a dogfight, man. And he's going to try to get Malik the ball. And also, like, they'll give Malik the ball on jet sweeps and get him in the backfield too as well. So you got to know where this kid is, number one, is at all times, or you will pay the price. He's a dog.
Talk. Last thing I'm going to mention before we go, I was watching Malik's film. They're throwing him the ball deep, man. Like 2, 3 times a game. They don't even care if they make it. They're trying to put the threat there. That's kind of what we're missing with Cooks, right? Running this guy down the seam and just chucking him the ball to see, like, hey, you know, can you run past the safety and get it? I've seen it on film. Cooks can still do it, and they're using Neighbors as that threat. So that's the thing that I'm worried about tomorrow. I kind of want Trayvon to follow him, and I'll just leave it at that. Tuck, thanks so much for joining, man. Thanks so much for doing this for Cowboys Nation. I'll be
Absolutely.
putting this out there. Hopefully we get a dub tomorrow. Let me just get a score prediction before we sign out here.
Yeah, man. So tough prediction. It's sad right now that I feel like a little antsy about this game, but overall, I think the difference maker is going to be our quarterback and Dak Prescott. I think that he's going to lead the reign. So I have the Cowboys win this game 31-17.
Cool. I got Cowboys winning 28-17, so we're pretty close there. And thanks so much for joining once again, man. Hopefully we'll have you back soon this season. And Tuck,
Absolutely.
I appreciate it, brother. Cowboys Nation, thanks so much. CFO gang, Touchdown Labs gang, out.